working on our second sky bridge today at the JW Marriott, and this is our prep station. The fabric's here and ready to go, so they have like 2 more wires to put around, and then we'll pop the fabric up and roll it out, cinch it together, and it'll be good.
So inside the sky bridge, which is pretty awesome, is that we're gonna start by draping on this end. So they're on the roof right now and below us. We're gonna drape the piece starting on the edge and then slowly roll it this way. It's just been the most physically exhausting project of all the projects I've ever done, mainly just because of the size. Each piece weighs like 200, 300 pounds sometimes, so it takes like 2 or 3 of us just to maneuver it. When I first started making work, I was really interested in kind of the wow factor of the art practice within like an urban space specifically. I liked that all the brick and all the kind of brown elements of the buildings really highlighted the color of the fabric and made the geometric shapes pop even more.
I mean, we're not even up into the high wind yet. But with gusts 33 mile an hour, It's gonna be tough to do.
So, sad bit of news, it's too windy. Essentially, the wind is pretty gusty and intense, so we're not gonna put it up today just because it could either blow us off the thing, the piece could be totally out of control. It's just, these gusts are pretty intense especially when you're up high, so we're gonna push it back till tomorrow, see if we can we're just gonna have a long day. So we have a plan. It's just kind of scheduled. As you can see, this is pretty rough. This team is amazing, I have to say. I mean, all of us are kind of learning as we go along in building this process, and I think there's a lot of misnomers about contemporary artists. Like when you start going into a project, it's like, oh, they know everything, and we do, but it's also this kind of practice of learning and really getting to know the building, getting to know the environment, taking all of our skills into creating this thing, and every time it's successful. You come up to a hurdle and you fix it.
Yesterday the wind was insane. Today, still not great, picking up over the afternoon. So we'll get out there in the morning and it's pretty still, and then the wind will pick up, usually around 1 or 2, and which is about when we're about ready to lay the fabric, because we have like a 1-day window with all these businesses. And so we got up there and it was windy. We're using like a specific cable that will hold this sort of tension, but they move around.
So we're gonna see some sun, probably this side now, just because this is where it really starts to show up. So one really cool thing about the project is how the piece kind of turns into this like stained glass experience. That's the reason I chose the word kaleidoscopic, because when you look, when the sun hits the fabric, you start seeing how all the fabrics are stacked together, and they start creating these lines where the seams are that look like a stained glass, like the lead in between the glass pieces. Ooh, and this is the other thing, we have fauna. So we have like spiders all over the place, creating new environments within the piece. It's outside. You know, a lot of times when we see public buildings, it's all about creating space that is acceptable for everybody. And so this is kind of a shift in that for a very short period of time. It's not asking the community to say, hey, let's all believe that a kaleidoscopic stained glass wall is a good idea forever. Instead, we do it for a short period of time to kind of remind people how beautification like this can be positive, but still keep it temporary so everybody that's nervous or at bay can know there's an end in sight. But I do feel this kind of sparks people's vision into feeling a little bit more comfortable about contemporary art as being part of their everyday experience, maybe in public spaces, beyond just like, say, a sculpture that goes in the middle of a courtyard, for example. Oh, look at this. So you have like 2 juxtapositions. You have like fabric. It looks like it's veritable wax. So I think this is African fabric. And then you have Department of the United States, the Army, like, 2 similar patterns, but totally different backgrounds. But I do remember when people drop stuff off, if it's a specific conversation, I remember the fabric really well. Like there was one that, there's a woman who's working with our team named Dana. Her mom donated a bunch of fabric. And one of them is this amazing piece of fabric, all these dog faces, like connected. And they're in one of the sky bridges. I don't know which one, it could be today. But you know, that kind of experience is always fun because I start pinpointing sections of the project. Like, you know, we may get filler. Like there's kind of two parts of these pieces when I'm making them. One is the zoned in, like, you know, zoomed in specifics about the story, about one piece of fabric, for example. And then the other element is like the filler to make a geometric design for outside. So it's almost like that zoomed in, pulled out at the same time while I'm doing the project. But I like that. Because then people will start, you know, they'll come through here and start seeing noticing the patterns, whereas when they're outside, they may see, like I made a chevron right here, so they may see the chevron and kind of see how it's connected, you know, the perspective between the largeness of the buildings and the smallness of this.